Hello, and welcome to a video idea that I've had for a while now, the moveset creation for an Omega Strikers character. The character that I've created a moveset for today is Asher, a tall and muscular character who uses something that isn't covered too well in Smash right now, shields. Asher dual wields two technologically advanced shields that hover beside her, allowing for her to protect her goal and fight others when playing in the Pro Leagues. In Smash, each character has 8 unique alternate skins to allow for 8 different people to play at once and not get lost. Our first alt is the original Asher skin, with her orange, white, and black color scheme, which is the skin that comes when a player buys the character. Our second skin was introduced after Moist Esports got top 3 during the Creator Clash, and has a blue, white, and black color scheme. The third skin is the final Odyssey made skin, which is going to soon be released to the public for the Season 2 update of Omega Strikers. This is a lifeguard skin which follows the theme of the new season. The next alternative costume is a bit different though. This, along with the 5th and 6th alternative costumes, were all fan-made designs, and I will be putting the tags of the artists on screen. With that out of the way, the 4th alternative costume is Pajama Asher. This costume has Asher in her pajamas and replaces her shields with 2 pillows. Our 5th costume for Asher is a police officer skin, which gives her shield a new design and changes up her outfit significantly. And then our 6th and final fan-made costume is Pirate Asher, which gives her a pirate hat, an eye patch, and turns her hair black. All of the fan-made skins are really cool to see, and I'm glad to see some new art for her. As for the final 2 costumes, Asher can take on the colors of her teammates Juno and Luna, giving her teal and green hair and shields respectively. With that done, we can now get to the character herself. Asher's walk and run animations can both be confident, showing that of a determined but confident fighter willing to do whatever it takes to be able to get back to her loving siblings. Asher's character has a few things that I wasn't able to fit into the moveset, so I've given her 2 different passive abilities. The first of which is that her shields can block projectiles when she's standing still. Her shields are powerful enough to simply shrug off almost every hit, and this can show it. This would work similarly to Link's current shield blocking in Smash, and it probably look the same way. The second ability is something that I'll get to a bit later, since it's not really applicable right now. For Asher's jab, she can throw a single punch forward, and if it catches an enemy, then they'll be in a prime spot for both of Asher's shields to go plowing right into them. This would be on the stronger but slower side of jabs with a relatively slow startup speed. In the case of Asher's forward tilt, I thought something unique would be useful. Asher will send her shields directly in front of her, in this case pointing left or right depending on the input, and attempts to push them forward with the ends pointing out. For Asher's down tilt, I figured Asher will push her shield downwards and use it to sweep the legs out from an enemy, dealing a pretty low amount of damage, but also having a high chance of tripping up the other player. As for Asher's up tilt, she sends one shield from her side straight up, pushing enemies into the sky and helping to set up for combos. This would act very similar to Mario's up tilt, although the animation would be a lot different, using her shield instead of her fist. Asher's smash attack should be pretty simple, but also have some power to back them up. For that reason, her forward smash functions as a shield bash. Asher will move her shield up to her shoulder, rear back slightly for her charge animation, and then burst forward to knock any enemies away. Her down smash is a sort of combination of a few characters, which creates a whole new type of move. For this attack, Asher directs her shields to go into the ground at an angle both in front of and behind her, dealing a pretty decent amount of damage and knocking enemies away at a nasty angle. As for this final smash attack, I figured something a bit more exciting could do the trick. Asher's up smash could consist of directing her shields up above her head and slamming them together, dealing a lot of damage to anybody caught in its trap. This wouldn't be the end of it though, as on the shield's return trip to Asher's side, they can slam into the ground on each side of her with a weak hit to make up for the smaller hitbox of the first hit. For Asher's throws, I figured something new would be appreciated. Let's start with the forward throw. For this throw, Asher summons her pal Juno, who drops a slime at her feet. Juno would disappear shortly after, and the little slime would take the enemy from Asher, walk a short distance, and then toss them forward unceremoniously. This wouldn't be the strongest throw in the world, but it would be a great tool for creating space from the enemy. Asher's back throw would also rely on her cannon teammates, but this time with Luna. Asher's back throw could consist of Asher throwing the enemy backward mercilessly, while Luna appears next to her, then firing a rocket towards the enemy in midair. This throw would work as Asher's only kill throw and a great get-off-me tool. Asher's down throw would bring Juno back into the mix, with Asher throwing the enemy to the ground and pinning them under her feet, while Juno sends a slime the enemy's way. Juno's slime would then proceed to hop up and down on the enemy a few times, dealing a good amount of damage with very low knockback. For our final throw, up throw, we bring Luna onto the playing field once more. Using her high-tech shields, Asher can hit the enemy up into the air, followed by another shield rising with Luna on top. Luna would then hit the enemy with punches and kicks and finish it off with a mini explosion, sending the enemy straight forward as Luna gets lowered back down to the ground. Now that we've finished the grounded attacks, let's move on over to the aerial attacks. Our first one will be Asher's forward air. This move would function very similarly to Peach and Daisy's current forward airs in Smash, but it'd happen a good deal faster at the expense of some damage and power. Asher's back air would also be very similar to an attack in Smash, drawing a lot of inspiration from Palutena's back air. Asher would swing her shield behind her to attack along with some intangibility frames as well. The down air of Asher would be a bit different than anything currently seen. She could put a shield right below her feet in the air and then stomp down, sending the shield straight down into any enemies, with a sweet spot spike if the enemy gets hit by the initial stomp from Asher. And now for the final aerial attack, Asher could use the technology of her shields to put them right above her head, allowing for protection up above, with a hitbox similar to that of Rosalina's up air. For a quick break from the moveset, let's talk about a few taunts. Asher has a few emotes in the game that I just couldn't leave out, although her first taunt isn't one of them. Although you might say it is. For Asher's side taunt, she can use her idle animation. One of the things Asher will do while in the menus of the game is a sort of self-fist bump. Does this even have a name? Either way, she'll punch her fists together with an increasingly malicious smile, and on the third punch, she'll wind up a bit more and then punch her fists together with a big smile on her face, ending the taunt. Asher's up taunt is one of the aforementioned emotes already in the game, with Asher spinning one of her shields in front of her, lodging it into the ground, and standing on top of it with a triumphant thumbs up. For her down taunt, on the other hand, she uses her shields to lean back and look moderately frustrated. These are some great emotes that are already in the game that would work well in Smash. Now we can move on to the final part of our moveset, which I've created a fancy little graphic for, the specials. Asher's neutral special is taken directly from Omega Strikers, that being her primary, also known as Barrier Beam. This move will create a barrier while firing a blast in front of her, which will deal more damage the closer the enemy is to Asher. In theory, this would be a get-off-me tool and would work well to ignore enemy attacks, with a moderate amount of protection from hits and relative safety for the player. Asher's side special is also taken directly from Omega Strikers. This move, known as Breakthrough, gives Asher a small defensive buff before she charges forward with her shields. This move will stop on contact with a projectile or enemy, and can be used as a recovery tool as well, without too much end lag. Asher's up special is the one original special move that I've come up with, which I've decided to call Barrier Leap. This attack has Asher position her shields below herself and then use them as platforms, which will refresh Asher's jump and double jump, and then stay up for about half a second before returning to Asher's side. The image used for this one was a great visual representation made by a friend of mine, and I figured it works great to explain what happens. Asher's final special move is her down special, Path Splitter. For this move, Asher will combine both of her shields and launch them forward. If they end up hitting an enemy, then they'll expand into a slow-moving barrier that can hit enemies repeatedly, before disappearing after enough time has passed. Now with that out of the way, remember how at the beginning of the video, I said that there's a second passive ability that Asher has? This is where that will come into play. When Asher uses her special moves, she gains a small tech-based shield that will revolve around her for 3 seconds or until struck by an enemy attack. If Asher gets hit while the shield is up, the knockback and damage she takes will be lowered by 30%. I feel like this is a pretty good ability, although for balancing purposes the numbers would probably be tweaked a little bit, depending on how well it works. I'm not too sure. Asher's final move, which is fittingly her final smash, is a move that I've named SSR Beatdown. Using the power of the Smash Ball, Asher can summon both of her teammates, Juno and Luna, to use their abilities in a cinematic fashion on the enemy. This would involve Asher's shields coming out in full force, along with Luna's rockets getting all fired at once, followed by a constant bombardment of slimes from Juno to make a devastating blow to the enemy. And there you have it, a full moveset for Asher. There were a few things that I wanted to add, and I don't feel like I was creative enough with a few of the aerials, but I think the moveset would work well for Asher. I tried to make her moveset mostly original without too many copied attacks, and I think I did pretty well for my first time making one of these. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I put a good amount of time into it, and for once I made a script for myself, which I'm currently reading off of. So I'd like to think that this is a bit of a higher level of production in comparison to my other videos. But thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video. See ya!